Hey guys, it's day 18 of Operation Flying Eagle. I had a video of day 17. I need to put that there. I know I don't look super hot right now. I mean, I do, but I don't. Um, I guess I've had quite a bit on my head, and so I decided to take just today off, and then Friday, Saturday, I'm going to go hard just because I'd reached a limit after yesterday. There had just been some things happening in the house that was making it really tough. I mean, I've talked about it extensively. I don't necessarily want to go into it now. And I was just thinking about some things to kind of cheer me up or whatever, and some successes that I've had. Um, Day 17, I'm going to find a way. I'm just going to go on my computer, upload the videos, and then, you'll have those day 17, and then you'll see that there. I'm excited because I came up with an idea. I just finished my project on the book the one book that I was writing, and now I'm working on the next one. And I've taken a sudden interest in astrology, and I'm going to be studying that quite a bit. And so we'll see what will come of that. And I'm actually thinking of perhaps hosting a little bit of a shindig party thing, not on the solstice, right? Because that's in 2 days, and that's just not going to be enough time. And I have plans Saturday, but the next Saturday or the next Friday night going into Saturday, I have some ideas, and I think that's going to be very, very, very good. And I think it's going to do more than eliminate a few of my problems and send me forward. And one of the biggest things I'm learning is I think love is weird. It comes in different ways, and I think understanding the God of the Old Testament is going to be something that I'm going to be looking into. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm Christian, but I definitely have like a Christian framework. I was raised that way, right? And I fundamentally have kept most of the principles because I think they're very enlightened and I think they're very beneficial. There are some things that I've seen that are a bit insidious, and so I don't necessarily identify with those. But it's important to me, I think, to realize that there's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to love someone. And sometimes love can mean speaking to the bit deeper, more important side of them, like that eternal side of them. And I think that means you have to put down other aspects, right? I know for me, there have been aspects of myself because I love myself total. I have to cut out, as they say, like Jesus said, like cut out the eye if it offendeth thee. For it's better that an eye be cast into the fire than the whole body should be cast into the fires of hell. And I'm realizing like not only in terms of like the collective consciousness, but like people and general energy. Sometimes like the greater act of love is to condemn some things, right, and not condone it. And I think love is acceptance, but I don't think acceptance means incorporation or um, how would I say acceptance? Acceptance is not incorporation. It's not integration. It's not unity. I think sometimes you accept something means you allow it to be as it is, and then you place it where it is, right? I think a good example is sort of like Pluto. Pluto used to be a planet, and Pluto is no longer a planet. And because we had to change that classification, there was an acceptance when these things changed, and it was tough on Pluto, of course, right? But I think Pluto in its state, can't be a planet anymore, even though it once was. And I realized sometimes there's people like that in your life where they were once a planet, they were once part of your solar system, even on the outer rim, but they were still part of the solar system. And now they are no longer defined or part of your system anymore, and they're just outside. They're a they're a celestial object, you know? And you accept them, you see them for what they are, but their definition and the label and the boundaries within that label change. So now we only learn there are 8 planets instead of 9, like I was taught growing up. And so I realize there are people like that. And sometimes when others don't and can't accept that, you have to set boundaries. And part of setting boundaries is being really clear so consistently through and through. And I'm realizing yesterday I spoke about a limiting belief, how you have to stand up for yourself. And I was like, how is that a limiting belief, right? That can't be a limiting belief. But when I started thinking about it more and more, when one stands up for themselves, it's the idea that you're having to resist something. But like the more empowering belief is recognizing something as is, right? So you stand up for yourself, yes, but it's not coming from this place of resistance. It's coming from this place of pure and utter acceptance of the reality. And what I notice is when you accept it and you look at it like that, the energy dynamic changes and then the reality unfolds that way. And I realize this is a next big step in my development where I can get some ideas and I can see the result of it. And even though I can see the result in sort of my temporal mind and I can understand why it's happening, the why and the energy as well as the motivations behind that occurrence can be vastly different, right? Even though the same thing occurs, the energies are different. And you know the difference is because after that set point in time and space with that one occurrence, what is the trajectory afterwards, right? And a trajectory of love only builds and creates more love, right? While a trajectory of animosity will only create more animosity. And so I'm at this point where I have to get to this point. I have to get to this indifference and non-offense with things that I accept but recognize have to be placed on the outside boundary, because I accept them but I recognize that they're no longer within my reign of focus. And that's the mindset. And I understand that intellectually. I'll be honest, I'm not there in my heart yet. But I've been focusing on a specific issue so much and I've been getting ideas and things and it's been good. It's been inspiring issues and inspiring activities. And I have an idea. I'm actually going to do that solstice party and that's going to happen. And I'm going to invite a bunch of people and I have a plan and something that I'm going to set in motion. Specifically because obviously I want myself to be able to set that energy in motion and live in joy and peace and tip forward. But then, and I want to be a leader, right? I want to be someone who can gather people together, create an event, get a lot of energy behind them, and build a community, right? That's part of Project Flying Eagle, right? Project Flying Eagle is focusing on building my intimate relationships, building my livelihood, and then building my community, right? And I can tie all those things together. And so I've been finding ways to do it where I can organize that event with my studies. And it's not going to be expensive, right? It doesn't cost very much. Get some candles, get some index cards, right? Paper bag, get some tables. Then it's easy, right? And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Get some flyers. That'll be probably the most expensive part. And then just the idea is speak the realities and not necessarily in this sense of resistance, right? But speak of this is how it is, right? This is how it's going to be. And when it doesn't match that, we're going to reiterate it until it does. And this, the universe will flow it in line. And it's not that we're resisting or we're pushing these things out. It's not that Pluto is getting excluded. It's that there are 8 planets. Because there's a definition of a planet being a certain size, a certain volume, and Pluto was not in that definition, right? You don't define something by what it's not. You define it by what it is. And I think so oftentimes when we find resistance and like we have issues or our problems, we see the problem and being like, I don't want that problem, right? And it's not about trying to correct the problem. It's about embodying the solution, right? And I haven't been embodying the solution that I want peace, I want solemnity, and I want respect. And those who can't abide by that, and one particular individual can't, I don't need to hyper focus on that individual anymore. It's that I want solemnity, I want peace. And I'm going to hold that within myself. And anything that seeks to interfere with that naturally will just move out the way. It doesn't fit in the definition anymore. And by living my life not as a resistance to this counterpoint, as a resistance to her, but as a sort of inevitability and sense of what is, I can start embodying that solution and start embodying the peace I want. And I get it here. I don't quite feel it here yet, so I don't, know it, but I understand it. And that's the first step. That's the first step. And I think doing this festival, that'll be a big part of it. Because a lot of things, manifestation, synchronicities, a lot of really crazy, intense things are they're accelerating, and my life is accelerating, and I can feel it. There's this energy coming. I've been feeling a lot of resistance or past how would I say, blocks, obstacles. They're kind of falling away, and I realized there's this part of me that was very attached to them because I feel as though they were part of me, and it's weird to accept this ease in my life, like this ease. And so I'm learning to incorporate and accept that and appreciate the fact that I have done the work, right? And that the very thing I'm doing doesn't come from resisting or it's not from overcoming the obstacle, but it's allowing things to be as they are. And when the obstacle comes, it is simply a block to the solution, but you always stay focused on the solution. You always stay focused. And then as you embody that solution more and more, it becomes to vibrate into your being, right? And so one of the things I need to focus on more is creating a community, having intimate relationships in a space where I feel safe, and then simply stating the boundaries, of which there's one in particular that I need to be able to do that, and then simply having that respected, right? And it's not about resistance to this, it's about saying this is what I need. But so many of the boundaries oftentimes are unstated because people get it, right? But people who don't get it, you have to be explicit about that. And it's recognizing that, okay, how do I state a boundary, but then not hyper focus on that boundary? It's about staying focused on the kingdom, not the edges of the kingdom, right? Let's not spend so much time trying to build a wall. Let's build a wall, but then focus on what we're trying to protect and build what's inside that wall. And it's the difference between trying to fight the enemy versus trying to strengthen your kingdom. And I need to focus on strengthening my kingdom and building up myself. And I was kind of run ragged a little bit, focusing on too many things. And I'm making a lot of good progress. It hasn't quite been the smooth upward trajectory I've wanted, but it has been this, right? And it's been going. So my records are a little janky. I'm a little behind on some of the courses, but people I'm meeting, the progress I'm exacting, the ideas that are coming to me, that the ways I'm executing on things, they're far better than I could appreciate and than I could understand or originally appreciate. And I'm starting to see that sometimes you might be a little later than you thought, but things oftentimes, if you allow them, will be far greater than you thought as well. And I think that's just going to be a theme for my life, where so many of the things that I thought I was going to get by this time don't happen by that time. But when they do finally come, they're just far greater, more expansive, and more than I could have ever anticipated. And I'm appreciative for that. And I realize it's just from making these simple steps and getting in the habit and accepting and embodying that solution. And I guess I would challenge anybody to think, like, what's a way you can better, more embody the solution to your life? And when I say embody the solution, it's absent of the problem, right? It's simply, what are the things that I see and want to create and build in this world, and how do I embody those, right? And I call it bodying the solution because intrinsically, when we live that way, it begins to mediate, solidify, and sort of organize the problems, obstacles, or issues we see in our lives. And I'm starting to see more and more that if I just trust myself and allow myself to be, it'll come together. Next week, one of the plans is for the next 2 weeks, basically until the end of July, maybe mid-July, I'm not sure. But until I finish Charisma University, I'm going to try and live a very tight schedule right? So I'm just gonna go run certain days and just fit a very, very tight morning schedule. And the reason is because obviously I want to be able to get that book done. But then there's all these other things I want to do. I want to draw. I want to play piano, and these things haven't been happening at the clip I would like. And it's because there's this part of me that hasn't necessarily fully invested in part of Charisma University that I realized was getting under my confidence. And it was getting under my confidence, but I didn't quite notice it because my confidence has grown so much. I didn't realize that I was actually undercutting that growth, though, because I was growing so much. I thought, well, this is great, right? I'm growing so much. It's amazing. But it's like, dude, instead of having 60 or 70, you could have 100, 110, right? So there's 40 you're leaving. There's 40 bucks you're leaving on the table every time, and you're being good. But with a few like small tweaks, you can have so much more, and it's not much work. And I think part of that was letting go of this need to like mentally incorporate and be conscious and just really fully trust myself and really allow myself to sit in that. And since I let my heart start leading, that was a big point of Operation Tipping Point. It was actually a month. It's been exactly 1 month since I call it my tipping day. The day I felt the shift, the day I felt I went from being in the downward spiral or and resisting, because there's so many times where I'd been in this downward spiral, but I was swimming upstream, and was doing it for so long, where I was just fighting all this resistance for so long, and climbing the mountain, whatever you want to call it. And I'd been doing that forever, and I felt during Project Tipping Point I was getting near the apex. And May 18th is the day I tipped, and I started sliding down. I'm pretty sure I put the video down, but that's when I started accelerating, and I could just started bombing the mountain. And once you start bombing the mountain, it's like a smooth slope, and there's another mountain, right? And it might even be higher, but because of the momentum you build up, you slide and you go. And that cycle continues. That's the upward spiral, right? And that's where, when Christ said, those who have will have more given unto them, and those who have not will have which they've been given taken away. And it's that the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And this cycle is inevitable in life, right? And if you want to sort of force your way out, there's a tremendous amount of resistance when you're in these spirals, right? And that's just sort of one of the aspects of the universe. But it is possible to cross over. We've definitely seen people were born in upward spirals and they cross into downward spirals. That's what happens when we fall as children, right? But it is definitely possible to get into that upward spiral. And I know that I've worked and I'm in that upward spiral now. Like, I can feel it and I'm accelerating, and there's this joy, and there's so much just little tweaking I'm doing that's going to give me so much more. And with that, I can share. And I feel like it's at this point where it's my duty to share, because I've been given so much and I want to share. Like, I tremendously want to share because I've been given so much, and I really feel this intense gratitude in my heart for everything that I've been given and I have. And there's this sense of very deep completion I feel in my heart, and I want to share that with as many people as I possibly can in as many different ways as I can. And so doing this summer solstice party, I think, will be a good first step. I'll make sure to take a video, take pictures, and maybe I'll make a video on it in my YouTube channel and sort of go from there. And then I think that will be fun. That will be fun. And I'm really excited for that. But then also, I think another thing is accepting certain realities. Oh, I have a phone call coming in. Okay. Anyway, so embodying the solution. That is going to be the next big step for me in the next learning pattern, and recognizing that the tightness I want is just a matter of giving myself the permission to not need to think so much and to trust my heart. And what's crazy is when you start freeing up the brain to not think or make all these decisions. And it's not that it doesn't do this emotional processing, but when you allow that emotional processing to sit in the back, it's like momentum, right? You can go through and let's say it's kind of like Water, it's kind of like water on a car. You can douse the car in water and you can try and wipe it down, right? Or you can just move so darn fast that the water begins to fall off, right? And I think there's a lot of things like that. And of course, like for the things that are really sticky, you can just scrub them off. But there's so many things where, with just momentum and acceleration and movement, they just simply cannot stick. And I'm at that point where I'm spending all this mental energy trying to scrape things off or trying to move things mechanically where they can simply be removed through acceleration, through momentum. By just moving forward, these things will fall away. And I'm at the point where I realize these connections aren't that strong. And the reason they keep coming back is because I am not moving. I am not accelerating as quickly as I know I can be. And if I were at that optimum speed, they simply wouldn't be able to stick. And it's kind of like escape velocity when you're breaking out of the atmosphere. Because even though I've tipped and I'm starting to go, I'm just at that beginning where I'm starting to build momentum. But if you want to think about it this way, I've just started lifting off, right? And I'm at the point where the initial burst has gone off and I'm just rocketing off, but so much energy is required before I can break the gravitational pull of my old life and the things that remained. And there have definitely been some residue. Like, there's some old habits and things. I started eating chicken this week, just because I had some left over and stuff like that. And I'm working on getting back down to just the fish and then eventually moving on to the vegan diet. Um, but there's some old residue. There's some old residue from that past life where maybe I get a little sloppy. It's not nearly as close, so it's hard to see. It's hard to see it as residue because my life is still so vastly different. But it's recognizing, okay, I still haven't quite fully let go of these things. And it's not about letting go of them because I have let go of them, but they haven't let go of me. But they will if I accelerate, you know? So it's recognizing that there are some things you're holding on to and they won't leave no matter how fast you move. And there's some things that will simply fall off of you as you move because they're just not strong enough. They're not capable enough to hold on to that. And there's a lot of weak things that I'm letting bother me, a lot of little barnacles or these little symbiotic bloodsuckers that would simply fall off if I just moved. And so I'm taking a day off. Yay for movement. Setting the course. And I made that. I just set my schedule. And so I'll be doing that and be jumping on that. And then simply, yeah, just be accelerating. Just be accelerating. Just be moving. And the idea is to move as fast as I can, as much as I can, and trust the results. Really trust the results. So that's been it's been a learning process, and I'm learning that. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the things that are going to happen and that are coming. So embodying the solution. That's a long rant. It's funny how when I don't have much to say, 6 minutes feels like forever, but then I've been talking for almost 24 and it just flew by. So embody solution. Peace.